Hi everyone. A little disclaimer to start this presentation. I'm not working for Nintendo or video game company when you see this slide. So yeah, I'm the founder of Blobber, and basically what we do is providing an API developer portal for companies who have APIs for them to have the best API experience. The picture is really to symbolize on the left how API documentation can look like, and how with Blobber you can have a great developer portal with great experience where we provide logs, support, testing, code samples, and the fastest time to the first call to really have a self-registration of users. So they rely on us for the user management, the billing part, and the monetization. So I'm going to share today with you some tips that we have learned for the past 2 years, working with them and helping them grow their API business. So to start with, just a quick presentation about Blobber. We were created in 2020. We are now 15 people in the startup, moving to 25 in the next 2 months. We have secured 6.2 million euros of funding, and we have more than 200 customers, a bit everywhere in the world, from startups, scale-ups, and enterprises. Basically, we are the Shopify for APIs, so really help them to create their marketplaces. I wanted to share with you the classical view of the API economy. And did any of you have seen this kind of slide before with all the business models? This is like the classical view. The first iteration has been done in 2013 by John Musser, I think. And frankly speaking, for me, it's quite hard to understand, even for me, because there are a lot of different things included. You have like distribution channels, you have business models that are included, you have as well ROI based on internal usage of APIs. So I think it's great to see all the things that you can do with the API economy. And it's something that has been shared and showed to everyone by API vendors. To sell the opportunity of the API economy. But what I really want to focus on today is really on API business models and the simple question, how do you make money from your APIs? And why? So for this, I think there are 4 key reasons, and we have been iterating on that for the last 2 years. One is that you want to create a new business. 2 is that you want to create and grow your distributional channels. Increase stickiness, and then upsell customers. When you create new business, Stripe, I think, is a really good example with their billing API. We love their developer portal experience. It's really cool. And they have been like really profitable. That's one of the best examples. For the distributional channels, you have TripAdvisor. So basically what they provide is an API that you can integrate to your websites where the customers can book online the hotels and the rooms directly from another website. So it grows like their opportunities for distribution. And then stickiness, Shopify, perfect example where they provide APIs, many different APIs that you can create integrations from, so that it makes Shopify really sticky and really hard to go out of Shopify when you start using them. And then the last one is definitely uSign. This is like the European competitor to DocuSign. And they sell their API as part of a specific plan to really upsell their customers. If you want to use their API, you need to go to the biggest plan. So I was sharing like those 4 key reasons. From those 4 key reasons, they address different type of persona and targets. Either you target your partners with distributional channels, your existing customers with the upsell, of course, and other type of businesses when you want to create a new business or a new business line with your API. And then the stickiness can be valid for all those different targets. When we look at the business model that you can apply, try to have like a more simple view on how to think about it. You have definitely for partners, you can either do revenue sharing or you can do it for free. Definitely if you do revenue sharing, it's going to create a viral loop and accelerate the distributional channel. For your existing customers, you have two options, either direct sales, and for the direct sales, you have a lot of different business models that are valid, or you can have it as a feature in the bundle, exactly the example of APIscene I was sharing previously. And when you want to create a new business, direct sales is the way to go. I will share more details afterwards. And then the stickiness, basically, it's you need to choose a more like kind of a free model. But first, before we jump into the tips that we have learned from there, we have been iterating a lot the last 2 years about how to think about the value of an API. And we consider that there are 3 different types of APIs. That's how we look at the market today. And it's something that we iterate constantly on. First one is your API as a service. We have, for instance, a customer language confidence. They provide English recommendation and English accent recommendation based on audio. It's used in application kind of like Babel. Another one is really the value is the data. So the example with electricity maps, they provide electricity source information with information about carbon intensity. So what they sell is really the data. And then the last one is Riku, where they sell more processing, because when you create a prompt, they generate automatically a picture for you. So more like a kind of a chat GPT that we all heard about. For those different type of value, you really need to think about those different type of APIs. The value can be really specific. We have created a lot of content about that with a specific white paper. It would take 1 hour to explain how the different steps to understand really the value of the API. You can download the white paper on our website, blubber.io. And it's something that we refine constantly as we learn more and more over every month. So now moving to the key learnings that we had, and what we see from when you have understood the value of your API, whether it's service, data, or process. The next thing is how I'm going to monetize it. And most of the times when we discuss with customers at the beginning, they all jump to the easy solution, API calls. And 80% or 90% of the time, it's the wrong approach, we believe. Because it's really rare that your API call provides the real value to your customer. Quite often, you need to do different API calls to really create the value, for instance, of creating a picture or getting the right data. So you better understand really the value metric and align your business model with the value metric. The value metric can be really diverse, and this is a cool exercise to do with our customers. And what we have seen is that it's increasing the revenue by around 20% with our customers when they choose the value metric compared to the API calls. So that's really a cool approach to have. So if we take the example of those I was sharing before, for the service, for language confidence, they monetize based on the seconds of English assessment. If we take the example of electricity maps, they monetize based on the electricity type, or the country it's coming from. So really segmenting the offer and the value metric. And for Riku, it can be only cost-based pricing, where it's a processing time of images, or it can be the number of pictures that are delivered. The second key learning that we got is actually when you think about direct sales or business models, in the end, you have 2 different models. Either you have prepaid models or postpaid models. Prepaid models are subscription models or one-time fee. Subscription model, you pay, for instance, a monthly fee for accessing an API. And one-time fee, it's just limited in the time. The advantage, definitely, of subscription model is that it's a recurring business. Every month, you get and collect the revenue from this opportunity. And on the other side, post-paid models, it's more like pay-as-you-go, tier pricing. Pay-as-you-go, you are going to bill your customer based on the usage that they got. And the tier pricing, it's more that you get different intervals of usage, and based on the usage, you are going to bill them at the end of the month. So there are pros and cons for the two of them. Prepaid models is great because you collect the cash directly at the beginning of the month. So that's really cool. The only issue is that you do not capture well the value that you provide with your API, because you can't expect the value that your customer will get during the month, and your customers cannot really figure out the right subscription that they can select from your different offers. On the other side, the post-paid models are super interesting because you have you can really build against the real usage of your customer. The cons here is definitely that you might face the risk that your customers might not want to pay at the end of the month. Against, for instance, asking the bank not to pay the bill if you do a IBAN collection or if you collect the cash through a credit card. We see that happening in edge cases. It can be 1 or 2% of the edge of the cases of the customers, but then it can be a risk in terms of value that can represent 5% of your revenue. So, what is the best model that we see and how to think about monetization? What we have seen working the best, definitely one solution would be to have more like a credit-based subscription. So you have a subscription with an amount of credits that you can get during the month, and based on the value metric, you can bill against the number of credits that have been consumed. But what we think is really the best one is another way, because if you take this approach of a calculated number of credits, it's quite fuzzy for the end user to understand really what they have consumed. And it's better to have more like a value-based model, which can be pay-as-you-go or tier pricing, but with a shortened billing cycle. So instead of billing at the end of the month, you can bill when they reach certain amounts in terms of value. So you reduce your risk that you do not collect the cash at the end of the period. With a business model like this. And we see that it's improving what I was mentioning, the risk someone not paying you at the end of the month. And this can be in value around 5%. So another key learning that we have learned is definitely that APIs must be product and use case oriented. So we see a lot of APIs with many endpoints, where you can do a lot of stuff, but they are not really focused on a specific use case. So it doesn't bring clarity for the end users to understand how this API can be used. And quite often, it's just like you are throwing the complexity at the end user. And we see that if you package well your endpoints, the data that needs to be included in a specific use case that is solving a specific problem, and that you attach the value metric that corresponds to the how you solve the problem, that's where you make the most money from your APIs. And this approach, we have seen in several examples that it's increasing between 10 and 15% as well, the revenue from our customers. One of the last learning that we get is about upgrading. So what we have seen with upgrading is when you have your upgrading that is impacting the operations from your end users. So for instance, if they move from one plan to another one, they need to change API keys, or they need to change endpoints. That can be really impactful for the end users. And what we have seen is working best is when this upgrading phase is completely seamless, does not impact at all developers, but it's just a relationship between the product owners, the purchasers, the finance people. So having this process seamless avoids the issue of asking to change something in the code that would really impact operations. We have learned the first thing that it could be between 3 and 5% of impact on the renewals that you can get and the upgradings. So it's really important to think it from the start, how your customers will evolve over time from one plan to another one. That's it in terms of insight I wanted to share. I'm sharing a lot of content on LinkedIn about API economy and some tips that we learned on our journey. And happy to connect if you want on LinkedIn and discuss those topics.
Thanks a lot, Alexandre. It was great. Is there anyone who has a question in the room? No? No question? Yes, okay. Do you want to make this? Hello? Yes.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It's rare to see something about business models and not about pricing or pricing models, so I appreciate that one a lot. You're coming from a portal perspective, but when I have to think about API penetration into the market, how do you see the role of an own portal versus going through hyperscalers, aggregators, or other distribution channels? What is the role here of the portal?
Yeah, so a great question. So what we see is that it really depends on your business strategy, if it's a distribution channel, upsell customers, or new customers. So I guess your question is more when you have you want to address new customers. And for this part, what we see is there is like you go to aggregation if you don't know who are your customers. So it's a good way to start knowing your customers, understanding who they are and who you should target. And then when you know that, you want to have your own platform. You don't want to be overwhelmed by the competition in an aggregation platform where you don't know where you are going to rank against your competitor, and you rely on a third party for your go-to-market strategy. So it really depends how mature you're about that. And we see our customers, when they are really early in their API journey, that they start on aggregator and then coming to create their own developer portal. And something that is really cool with creating your own developer portal is then you can do advertising, you can grow your own marketing channels that you do not rely on a third-party provider.